Two quick wedding stories I thought was kind of fun. The first one was getting to the hotel. I was like, this is beautiful, this is amazing. And I looked out the window and it was this beautiful view of Philadelphia. Looked like this. And I thought, oh, this is great. You know, the past like 5 hotels I've stayed at for work or whatever, I've always had a giant view of a construction site. And I started to walk toward the window, and then I looked down and I saw this. And it was just a funny kind of like, oh, great. Oh, but it was still beautiful. No worries there. The other one was this morning we got up and, you know, there's a big buffet starting at 9:30, so I called the front desk and I said, oh, where's the buffet going to be for the Tracy Cowell's wedding? They kind of cut me off and said, oh, it's the 33rd floor. And I thought, oh, cool, it's going to be way up high. So we get on the elevator, we go to the 33rd floor, beautiful buffet, there's like an omelet bar and like smoked salmon and all that, and we go and Liz and I get our food, and there's like a yogurt parfait and just absolutely gorgeous. And we're looking around and we're like, oh, I don't really recognize any of these people from the wedding, and we're just thinking like, our friends and everything, they must still be sleeping. The after party probably ran really late. I bet they're all exhausted. So we go and we see someone who like we were on the elevator with coming up, and we go sit down at his table and see some of his people, and we start eating, and then one of them says like, oh, how do you know Rashid? And we're like, who? And they're like, well, Rashid, the groom and all that. And we're like, oh, we're at the wrong buffet. And it was one of these really awkward things where it's like, oh, well, you know, we just got all of our food, like, we just sat down, and, you know, if we just left at that moment, it's kind of just, yeah, I mean, it's one of those, like, damned if you do, damned if you don't things, like, oh, we could get up and leave, but then it's like, that's kind of weird, but then, you know, you leave your food, and that's just all going to be thrown away, and I hate to waste food, but then, you know, we did the other thing, which in some ways felt more polite, which was to stay and keep making polite conversation and talk to some of these people who are, like, mechanical engineers, that had really interesting jobs, and obviously never crossed paths with in our normal life, so it was kind of an interesting opportunity to sit down, and, you know, they encouraged us. They said, no, eat it, you already got the food. So we ate this fantastic food and chatted with them for 45 minutes, and then kind of said our goodbyes and ran downstairs and found the correct buffet with all of our friends, and of course then we're like, yes, now we recognize everyone in the room, but that was really awkward and kind of interesting, and I imagine the moment that we left, as sweet and polite as everyone was, they probably thought like, are they wedding crashers? Do they do this all the time? Because the interesting thing, if this was like a scheme that Liz and I had, is that unlike, you know, schemes that you might have heard of in the past for like crashing weddings, if you've heard about a lot of those, what's interesting here is we didn't need to learn anything about the bride and groom. We go, we get our food, we sit down with a bunch of strangers, they ask, you know, what our connection is to the wedding, and then we just say that we don't have one, that we're at the wrong wedding, and then, you know, we could not even be there for another wedding. We could just make up stuff about another wedding and another couple that they don't know anything about, and no one would be the wiser. Of course, that's not what we're doing, but they would have been totally within their rights to assume that that's something that we somehow do, and we're just really good at looking startled and like, oh God, how did this happen? But anyway. Couple funny, ridiculous, interesting, exciting wedding stories. The wedding service, by the way, was in the oldest church in Philadelphia, which was absolutely beautiful. I would love to go back and just hang out there and draw the place. Totally random fun fact about me, whenever I'm in church these days, I just draw the entire service. It actually helps me focus on what's going on more, and I find that especially the older I get, I have a lot of trouble just being talked at, just being lectured to in any capacity, whether whether educational or otherwise. Like, I need to have something else going on to take any of that in, because I can't just listen. I need to interact. I need to have a dialogue, or if I can't have a dialogue, I need to have something to associate what I'm being told with. So, you know, drawing's a great way to do that. I'll draw this line, and then later I'll look back at that line and remember something that they said. So that's me. Cool.